Don't embarrass us, my father snapped, tearing the glossy print of my portfolio in two with one rough hand. A painter? A game designer? Some ridiculous dream. He named them all in a single breath, as if belief were a switch you could flip off at the table. My mother's eyes pooled with a mix of pity and disbelief. My sister laughed and said I'd be back within a month, begging for the old bed and the old meals. The room tightened around me, a noose of well-meaning scorn. And I walked away with the hollow echo of their judgment in my ears. I left that night with a backpack, a battered laptop, and a stubborn breath I refused to spit out. The streetlights smeared like wet coins along the pavement as I wandered toward a future I could not yet name. I would prove them wrong, yes, but more than that, I would prove to myself that the tremor inside me wasn't a mistake. The first weeks were a blur of cheap motels, ramen that clung to the spoon like a dare, and code that refused to compile until my hands learned how to listen to the tiny, stubborn victories hidden in stubborn bugs. Nights melted into days, days into a ledger of small wins and crushing setbacks. I shipped prototypes that nobody played, then learned to fetch just enough money for another 2 weeks of coffee and hope. I slept in a chair by a desk that squeaked with every line of code I swear I memorized, word for word. I learned to survive on a diet of rejection emails and the cold clarity of deadlines met at the last possible moment. The dream felt ridiculous more often than not. But in those long hours, I found something steadier than belief, a stubborn, stubborn craft. Then came the turning hour, the moment you realize you've built something someone else wants to carry. A tiny studio took a chance on a debut game I'd poured blood into, a world where decisions bend reality, and the player learns to forgive the mistakes they make within it. The launch wasn't a revolution, but it moved fast enough to matter. Press found it. Players stuck with it. A publisher saw a future where I could lead more than I could dream. People started naming me less for the fear I'd fail and more for the hope I might succeed. The weight of doubt began to lift. Thread by thread, as new doors opened and I stepped through them one by one. Years later, I came home with the glow of success on my skin and a different kind of hunger in my chest. The house hadn't changed, not really. The same wooden stairs, the same cracked kitchen tile, the same quiet that followed us in the morning like a shadow. I stood in the doorway and watched them absorb the version of me they'd warned against. And then I carried a small trophy into the room, set it on the coffee table, and watched their faces. The room fell still. My father blinked as if waking from a long sleep. My mother's hands rose to her mouth in apology she didn't quite dare to voice. My sister's jaw slackened. For an instant, the old doubt hovered between us, but the truth arrived louder. I am here. I am home. I am the proof of what can happen when a ridiculous dream refuses to die. And when a family finally learns to see not the risk you warned me of, but the man I became in spite of it, I stand tall, and the room, for once, breathes with me.